Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to another Sims 4 speedrunning video, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. So in today's video, I'm going to be building in the world of Windenburg, which is the world that we got with the expansion pack The Sims 4 Get Together. And I'm going to be building a countryside family cottage. So it's officially September, and in my mind, as soon as midnight strikes, it's September 1st, I'm automatically placed into autumnal mode. I can't help myself, I'm like it every single year. It's my favourite season. It just makes me feel all warm and cozy, and it's kind of what inspired me to do this build. Now, this is not actually built in the autumnal weather, it's actually built in summer still. But I was just inspired by the fact of it's getting a little bit colder here in the UK. You know, you want to wrap up a little bit more, get a woolly hat and whatnot. And I wanted to build something really cozy. And I thought, why not build a cozy countryside cottage in the world of Windenburg? Now, this particular lot is actually quite difficult to build on because it's actually bigger widthways than it is lengthways. So there is more tiles going from left to right than there would be from front to back. And so this house actually ends up having almost two side gardens. So on the left hand side in that garden we have, it's a very small garden, highlight the word small because it's definitely a short sweet little area, where we have a little seating area. We also have some garden plots so your Sims can grow like fruits and vegetables, and there is also a chicken coop as well. And then on the right hand side that actually ends up being a massive pond, and it's actually got one of them water mills that comes from the Cottage Living live edit menu. Now I get a lot of questions where that mill is actually from, and it's where I just said it's from the Cottage Living live edit menu. You have to actually access cheats to get access to it. The cheats are bb.show hidden objects first for the debug menu, and then if you want to actually have access to like the world objects, then you enter bb.show live edit objects, I believe anyway. If I've said that wrong, I'll do a correction on the screen now and I'll give you the proper cheats, but I'm pretty sure there's cheats anyway. I have a mod installed into my game, so I kind of have them objects consistently in my build and buy, so I never actually have to access the cheat. But yeah, that's where the water mill is from if you're curious. I have actually got a room on my gallery where you can go and download it. If you want to, use it in your own separate builds, then feel free to. But yeah, I decided to use one on the side of this house because in the surrounding areas, there's a lot of water and there's a lot of different ponds and streams and stuff. And actually at the top of this massive pond, there is actually a water mill in the world of Windenburg, and obviously we don't have it with the Windenburg live edit menu, but we do have it with the Cottage Living menu. So I thought, why not add it into the build and kind of make it into a feature. There is also a little washing line just in front of the pond as well, which is so sweet. When I was playtesting this build, because by the way, like always, this build has been playtested and everything actually works. I didn't run into a single problem when I was playtesting this, which is very nice. But when I was actually playtesting this build, my sim went and hung her washing out onto the washing line in front of the pond, and it just looks so sweet and countryside light, and it's very adorable, it's very cozy, and it's just exactly what I want this build to be, just very sweet. But anyway, moving on, as you can see, I'm actually working on this little pond area over here on the right hand side. Now something I like to do whenever I build ponds is I always like to map it out, because I think it makes it so much easier whenever you do want to actually add a pond onto a lot. Because if you try to sink down the ground without any terrain paint, it's a bit difficult to see what you're actually sinking down and what is actually like flat and what's not. And so something I like to do is I actually like to add a load of mud onto the floor, just kind of as like a rough guide. It doesn't have to be exact, just kind of like a rough idea of where you're going to actually sink the ground in. And then I actually go in with a terrain manipulation tool and I actually do sink the ground in, and then I add the water. That way you can just kind of see what you're doing, because when you try and sink the ground without any terrain paint, I find it quite difficult anyway to see. And so it's a little tip, if you ever want to create a pond and you have the same difficulty that I do, add terrain paint onto the floor, and then you can actually see what's going down into the ground and what's not. But moving on from that and actually talking a little bit more about the build itself. So this house has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And for a really long time, I was debating, I say really long time, the whole time that I was building this, I was debating whether it should be for my save file or not. But I think I've come to the conclusion that it will be. Now, the only reason that I was questioning it is because normally when you think of a house in Windenburg, you normally think of the Tudor style wallpaper. And this house doesn't actually end up having any. You can see that I've actually placed the wallpaper down at the front, and I've literally just changed it. Now, I actually originally placed it down because I was trying to convince myself to use it just for the fact that I'm building in this world of Windenburg. And normally if you think of a house in this world, you think of a house that's got Tudor style wallpaper. But the one that I actually ended up going for, this Island Living wallpaper, it just kind of suited the house a little bit better, and it made the house look a little bit old. And that was the kind of idea that I had in my head. This is a really old countryside cottage. I think I need to move away from the idea that every single house in Windenburg needs to have Tudor style wallpaper, because it's not, because there's going to be all different houses that have their own characteristics and their own different features, and maybe there is a few cottages in this world that don't have Tudor style wallpaper, and there's probably going to be some houses in different worlds that have Tudor style wallpaper. I'm not going to restrict myself, and that was something that I was really struggling with when I was building this, because I love the build so much, and I was actually being a little bit hard on myself, thinking, oh no, it doesn't really stereotypically fit in with this world, but do you know what, it will be for my save file, because I love the build too much to not include it in my save, and I also really love the idea for the family that are going to be living in this house. So the house actually consists of, or the household consists of 4 Sims. There is going to be a set of grandparents and then 2 grandchildren. Now, I'm not sure what actually happened yet, or it kind of expounds on it when I actually do the family tree and, you know, do all the different things that have happened in this family's lifetime. But something happened, and the grandparents now have kind of like authority over the grandchildren. And I was thinking that they've actually recently moved in, and I tried to decorate both of the grandchildren's bedrooms in a style that your grandparent would decorate your room if you was going to move in. It's not going to be like really modern room. It's going to be quite cottage-like, quite traditional, quite sweet and fairy tale-like. It basically just fits the rest of the house, like the downstairs area and the actual grandparents' room as well. It's quite countryside-like, it's quite old, you know, like grandparents kind of house kind of style on the inside. It's not too grandparentsy, but it's enough to know that it could be a grandparent's house. But the way that I actually decorated the rooms, so the grandchildren consist of 1 teen and then 1 child. I did it so for the teenagers' room, they've actually got this wallpaper which is all like light and airy and like, you know, fairy tale light, and the teenager hates it. And I'm pretty sure I actually tried to put some wool decals onto the wall, which kind of made it look like the teenager has tried to rip off the wallpaper, because they really don't like the wallpaper. They don't like the way that the room's been decorated. And I kind of had the idea in my mind that the teenager really does not like their current living situation. You know, they really don't want to live with their grandparents. They want to go back living with maybe possibly their parents, or I don't know what would have happened. I'm still like trying to figure that out, and I'm trying to figure it out so it makes sense in the game as well. But something would have happened. They had to move in, and the teenager really is just not happy and tried to redecorate their bedroom. But you've got this kind of like fairy tale wallpaper, and then there's like all these punk rock kind of posters, and you know, it's a messy room as well. I wanted it to seem like a really rebellious teenager's room, and I think I did it quite well. I was kind of imagining that the teenager would be quite naughty. I was kind of imagining that they would be in the Renegade, you know, the club that came with Get Together. I imagine that they're always going out late, probably past their curfew, and you know, grandparents are always staying up late trying to figure out where they are and whatnot, and maybe they always pull pranks and stuff, maybe they're class clown, stuff like that. I feel like they're really rebelling, maybe because of the situation that they've been put in. And then the child, I imagine the child is completely the opposite. Child loves living with grandparents, you know, the child's room is, you know, quite sweet, it's quite cute, that room. And then you go over to the teenager room across the hall, completely different story. But yeah, I was thinking that the child has a really good relationship with the grandparents, and I was thinking that maybe with one grandparent, they often go into town together and maybe go to the market stalls and whatnot, and maybe go and do a bit of shopping together and go on walks and stuff, have a really good relationship with the grandparent. And the teenager, different story, really does not like their grandparents and just really wants to get out. And also, actually, I was thinking that maybe if you've ever played the Sims 4 Runaway Teen Challenge or the Runaway Teenager Challenge, if you're not familiar with that challenge, you can literally just Google it, and then all the different rules and all the different things that you've got to do for the challenge will come up. It's actually quite a good challenge, but if you ever wanted to do that, I feel like this teenager will be a really good teenager to use, because they just want to get out. I was originally thinking, when I was actually, you know, furnishing the downstairs area, that the teenager could possibly want to one day become a music artist and, you know, like sell worldwide albums and go on all these different tours and do all these different concerts and stuff. But I didn't actually end up adding a microphone into their room. So if you do want to download this house and you do decide that you want to kind of maybe go with that storyline, then you can definitely just add one in. I really hope that if we ever do get generations in The Sims 4, which I am holding out for, I kind of want to speak it into existence. You know, we will be getting generations in The Sims 4 at some point. You know, you got to manifest it. But if we ever did actually end up getting generations into the game, I really hope that they kind of expand on the different kind of teenagers that we can have, because I want there to be like some more rebellious things that teenagers can do. I think it was The Sims 3 where you could actually send parents away on holiday and then teenagers could actually throw parties. I loved that aspect of the game. I really wish that we had something like that in The Sims 4. I mean, technically, on paper, you can actually do that if you send your Sims maybe onto a different lot and then you change back to the current Sim. You can technically do it, but I kind of want that aspect of the game back, you know, chuck a secret, no one knows about it, don't tell my grandparents that I'm throwing a party kind of party, and then they come back and the house is a bit of a mess. I'm really holding out for Generations in The Sims 4. I don't want to say that it would necessarily complete the game, because I feel like The Sims 4 will never actually be complete. I feel like there's so many different aspects that we could have added into the game through expansion packs and game packs and whatnot. Can't think of any off the top of my head, but you know, there is so many different aspects to life. There is probably so many different possibilities. But I feel like with Generations, it would just make the game feel a little bit more whole. Like, I want to be able to send my teenagers to prom and maybe have the opportunity to possibly win prom king or prom queen. I want to be able to get my teenagers to, can't remember the official name of it, but I think it was Sims 3 where you could actually get teenagers to throw toilet paper at people's houses. There is a name for it, I've forgotten it at the minute, but I want to get my Sims to be able to do that. Maybe have like boarding school in the game and a memory system with, or like a scrapbook system. With The Sims 3, it was one of my favourite things where you can actually have a scrapbook and you can actually see all the different memories. You know, the first time I visited this place, or the first time I had my first kiss, or the first time I had a boyfriend, whatever. Like, there was like a memory scrapbook system. I loved that in The Sims 3, and I really hope if we get Generations, we get that kind of scrapbook back, because that's such a good kind of piece of gameplay, and it makes you feel a little bit more attached to your Sims as well. Whenever I do play Sims 3, I always like going through the scrapbook and looking at all the different memories my Sims have had. You know, maybe some of them are good, maybe some of them are not so good, but it just feels really realistic to me, and I really hope that if we ever do get Generations, we get like a scrapbook kind of thing in the game, because it makes it feel like your Sims are not so much Sims and they're actually people. That sounds really weird, but do you know what I mean? It feels more realistic to me to play. But anyway, enough of me rambling on about Generations, when we're probably not even going to be getting Generations. We'll probably get a completely different expansion pack, but who knows? We might not even get an expansion pack. I have no clue. I'm just speaking it into existence. But anyway, as you can see, I'm just focusing on this little pond area on the right hand side of the build. I've just added the water mill, and then I'm going in and actually adding all of these different ducks and fish and dragonflies and the things that glow. I can't think what they're called. That's definitely not the name of them. Glowflies? It's definitely not what they're called. But you know, the things that glow in the dark, and they're like little bugs. They're really pretty over night time. I added some of them in as well. It looks really weird because when you actually place down the things to have ducks and fish and all that spawn in, it's kind of like these little tiles, and they've kind of got a picture of what will be there. It looks really weird when you're building, but when you go into live mode, they disappear. You can't see them, so don't worry about that. There's not going to be random pictures of ducks in your pond. It will actually be actual ducks. But moving on from that, I'm just going to finish up the exterior part of the build, go around and add some lighting, both in the flower beds and also some kind of wall lights. And I'm also actually going to add some fence pieces into these archways, because I was actually looking at a picture, by the way, when I was building this. I've been meaning to actually mention it, but I haven't found like a nice transitional time to mention it. But I was looking at a picture when I was building this. I found this picture on Pinterest, and I'll pop a picture of what I was looking at on the screen now. Now, on the left-hand side, there was this archway, which was kind of covered by the roof, and I really wanted to kind of like include it in the build and make it a detail. But whenever you put archways into the game, you can't also have a fence, because then the wall will disappear. Because the way that the game reads fences and walls, you can't have a fence in a wall, put it that way. And so I wanted that like little archway area to have a fence on it, and so I actually used some fences which are from the live edit menu and just kind of made it look like it was a fence. It's not an actual fence, but your Sims still walk through that archway with absolutely no problems. Like I've said, I've playtested this build and I didn't run into any problems. But anyway, now moving on, I've now moved on into the inside of this house, and I've actually started off by furnishing the lounge room. This lounge room is probably one of my favourite lounges that I've actually decorated in a really long time. It's just so cosy and cute and grandparent like. I just love it. So over here you can see I'm actually doing this trick with these side tables which we got from Cats and Dogs, and basically if you kind of like turn them around so they're facing the other way and then move objects one on top of the other, you can actually put the keyboard inside of them and it looks like a piano. We actually have 2 grand pianos in the game and then 1 keyboard, but the grand pianos, they're quite grand, they're quite big, and you wouldn't normally find them in, you know, like a small little cozy cottage. They're kind of like either you've got a really big house, you've got bit of money kind of house, or you'd normally find them in possibly like a bar or a lounge or something. And so if you do the trick with the side tables and you actually merge in the keyboard is from City Living, by the way, if you're curious, then you can kind of make it look like a smaller, more realistic piano to have in your lounge room. But as well as that, I've now just moved over to the other side of this room, and I've actually just moved objects in, some photos on top of this fireplace. I love this idea. It kind of makes it feel a little bit more homey and a little bit more realistic. Maybe when I actually create the family, I'll replace all these pictures with actually pictures pictures that you can get, you know, your Sims to take of each other in game, because I feel like that's just so cute. I love that idea. But yeah, I'm just deleted the walls behind it, and then I'm like moving objects, the kind of photo frames on top of the fireplace. And the reason why you delete the wall behind it is because if you try to put the photos on top of the fireplace without the deleted wall, the photos will automatically clip to the wall behind it. So if you delete it, there's no wall to clip to, and then it's hassle free. So if you ever do want to do that trick, just try and delete the wall behind it, and then you can, you know, place all different photos on top of your fireplace. But as well as that, actually in this room I actually placed down some of the cross stitching patterns, because I really imagine that this family would do some cross stitching. Now thinking about it, I didn't actually place one down in this house anywhere so your Sims can actually do it, but I might actually add one in. So if you do decide to download this house, I think I might add one into the lounge room, maybe by the armchair, you know, the armchair that was in the corner. I feel like that might be a nice little home for the cross stitching box, but it won't be in the screenshots either, by the way, because I've already taken the screenshots. So I will add one in, it just won't be in the pictures for the lounge room. But yeah, I did this thing with the wall. I actually got all these cross stitching patterns. Now before I actually came in and actually started decorating this house, I basically got 8 Sims to go onto a lot, gave them loads of these different cross stitching boxes and loads of different armchairs, and basically just got them to sit down and do every single pattern that is in the menu. I cheated their skill, I'm not gonna lie, I did actually cheat their skills, so they had the highest cross stitching skill. And then I basically got them to do all these different, you know, like animals and quotes, and you know, like there's some like pumpkins and blueberries and mushrooms, and it's really sweet. And I added some onto the wall behind the little piano that I created. Now if you want me to, I can actually upload them to the gallery. Currently I've just got them into my saved rooms, but let me know if you actually want me to upload them to the gallery so you can download them and use them in your own builds. But anyway, moving on from that, as you can see, I've now moved on and I've actually started furnishing the kitchen. So the kitchen is actually quite big. I didn't necessarily want it to be as big as what it actually turned out, but just the way the floor plan happened, and it just ended up being quite a spacious kitchen. But in here I used the Cottage Living counters and fridge, and then the oven is from the Country Kitchen kit. I had to really think when I said that, because that is definitely a tongue twister, but that's where both the oven and the fridge is from. The oven from Country Kitchen, and then the fridge is from Cottage Living. But they kind of in like this similar cream swatch, and they go together really nicely. Maybe it's because they came out at quite close times. I think we got the kit maybe like 6-7 weeks before we got the expansion pack, so the swatches go really nicely together, and so I decided to use them in this room. I also placed down a coffee machine, a tea machine, a microwave. There's kind of like a little tea machine area at the back end of the kitchen, kind of on the opposite wall, and I actually moved objects, the teapot and then some little cups, into that counter as well. You can kind of see I actually used the red shelf to do that. If you're wondering what the red shelf is and where you can find it, it's basically a piece of CC that you can use to kind of move objects up and down to a particular height, and then the objects that you actually place onto the red shelf will move to the height of the shelf. So say if I wanted to move objects, for instance a plant, into a certain shelf, and maybe it doesn't clip to it, I can with the red shelf make it so it looks like it's sitting on it. Hopefully that makes sense. It's such a useful piece of CC. I use it in pretty much every single one of my builds, and it doesn't class your builds as CC if you take it out. So even though I'm using it in this build isn't CC because I don't actually keep it in the build. You just take it out, delete it like you would any other object. It's really useful, and I've always got it linked in the description box down below. And as well as that, I've always got Twisted Mex's website linked in the description box, which is a website that will take you so you can get the Better Build Buy mod and the Tool mod. That is such a mouthful to say in one, but the Better Build Buy mod is the mod that I can access the debug menu and the live edit menu in my normal build and buy. It's how I do all my landscaping, how I get all these debug menu items and live edit menu items. That's from the Better Build Buy. And then the tool mod is the one that I can kind of, you know, like lower things up and down, rotate things. That's the tool mod, and they're both on Twisted Mex's website. So if you're curious, because I've had a few comments recently about both the red shelf and the mods that I use, they are always linked in the description box down below. But anyway, moving on from that, as you would have seen, I did quickly just do the dining room and then also one of the bathrooms. So there is 2 bathrooms like I've mentioned, but there's only one full bathroom with a, you know, bath and shower and whatnot. The one that I just showed is a half bath, and it's also the utility room. That's why I decided to keep the footage in. Normally I only ever show the furnishing of one bathroom, but because it was like part bathroom, part utility room, I decided to keep the footage, and so you can see what a little laundry utility room looks like in this house. It's just got toilet, sink, and also washing machine and tumble dryer. even though there is the washing line and the wash tub out in the front garden, it's always nice to have the other ones as well, just in case it's a bit cold in your Sims game and, you know, your Sim wants to have some fresh, clean clothes, then you've still got an option so you can actually wash them and dry them. But moving on, I've now started furnishing the upstairs bathroom. So this is the full bathroom that's got the shower, the sink, the toilet and the bathtub. And then I also do just go in and decorate it with some, you know, like mirrors and wall decorations and whatnot. I went for a quite traditional style bathroom in this house because I feel like this bathroom is quite old, hasn't really been renovated, and maybe they don't want to renovate it. Maybe they want to keep it to be this kind of classic, kind of traditional type of bathroom. I love this type of bathroom myself. I love this bathtub and this sink. Both the bathtub and the sink are from Cottage Living, and then this toilet is from Cats and Dogs, and then I think the shower's just base game, but it's quite yellow in there as well. I never seem to do yellow bathrooms, but I felt like it just suited in this house. But anyway, now I've actually moved on into the child's room. So in here, like I've mentioned, I imagine this was recently renovated, so maybe it used to be like an old office or something, and I imagine that the grandparents, when their grandchildren actually moved in, that they kind of recently just did all the wallpaper and made it so it was like a livable room. Maybe it was like an old room in the house that wasn't actually in a livable state, and, you know, like they renovated it, maybe put down some new floorboards and whatnot. I really like this room. It's very cute. It's very fairy tale like. I use the wallpaper, which is from Realm of Magic, and then I believe all of the all of the wooden floor is the one from Cottage Living as well. But in this room, I use a Discover University single bed, and there is also one of the teddy bears in the corner. I use a Cottage Living rug on the floor. It's got these little bunnies on it. It's really adorable. I was actually really tempted to use the Cottage Living wallpaper, you know, the one that's got all the different like rabbits and acorns and like nature related stuff on it. I was really tempted to use it in this build, but I feel like I've used it a lot recently, and so I decided not to use it. But I also have one of the doll houses in this room as well. I can't tell you last time that I actually used one of the base game doll houses, because ever since we've had Eco Lifestyle, I always just seem to go for the cardboard one. I don't feel like many people would have such a traditional, massive, expensive doll's house in their children's rooms. Maybe it's just me, but I always feel like the one that I've used is just a little bit more realistic. But there is also a chest of drawers in there as well. But now I have actually moved on into the teenager's room. So this is the grandchild, which I imagine would be really rebellious and really just does not want to be a part of this family, does not want to be in this house, and possibly even wants to be a runaway, maybe wants to leave and go to maybe possibly San Moschino or another world and start doing music gigs and stuff like that. They just don't want to be a part of this family, and they don't want to be in this room, and they absolutely hate the way it's decorated. So I actually placed down this wallpaper, which is from the Paranormal Stuff pack, and I imagine that the bed is also a bed that was already here when the teenager moved in. Like, this wasn't a bed that they've moved in with. This was kind of like what was already placed down, and so I imagine that maybe it was the grandparents' old bed, and they thought, oh, it'll be really nice and lovely for the teenager's moved in, absolutely hates it, and they've tried to decorate their room in their own way. And so what I tried to do by like trying to show that is where the wallpaper is so light and kind of, it's quite sweet, it's got all these little flowers on it and whatnot, I tried to choose posters that were quite dark. So I actually used a music poster on the right hand side of the wall, and then I actually placed down some like dark punk rock kind of posters, some kind of like football posters. I actually have this long wall decoration that's it's like black and brown and yellow as well, and it's quite dark. I tried to basically decorate it so this sim wants to have a completely different colour scheme, but they can't decorate their room, and so they've just tried to mimic it with all these different posters and stuff. I also put some magazines under the bed and some piles of clothes in the corner, and there's also a little tear. I actually covered it up by a photo frame, because what I was imagining, or I say photo frame, you know, one of the leaning ones that we got from base game, it was in a base game update. I believe it was the freelance update, but it's kind of like a leaning photo thing that you can put on, you know, kind of like the ground. I imagine the teenager tried to rip up the wallpaper, but then couldn't actually do it, and then was thinking, I can't let my grandparents see this, and so they tried to cover it up by putting an object in front of it. But I just really liked that room. I had a lot of fun decorating it. But anyway, as you can see, I've now moved on into the final room, which is the grandparents' room. In here, there is just a 4-poster bed. There is a fireplace, an armchair, and then a little chest of drawers area as well. But anyway, guys, I am actually going to end this voice over here. So as always, you can download this build via the gallery. My origin ID is JessicapieYT, or you can just search for the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And as always, if you do like my content, then please do subscribe. And hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedbuilding video. Bye guys!